Canada have created a bill to fine striking education workers. Yeah, it's happening in Canada too. $4,000 you can be fined if you are an educator and you decide to go on strike. This sounds like worker intimidation to me. So Republicans in Canada aren't that much different from the Republicans over here in the good old US of A. They must be sharing each other's notes. They looking at each other's notes. That's what they're doing. So Doug Ford has come under fire for a bill that would fine education workers and unions for striking. It is Bill 28. Let's look at this graphic. Doug Ford's conservative government tabled legislation this week that would unilaterally impose a contract on education workers and levy hefty fines for striking. The move escalates a bitter dispute over pay for education workers, including custodians, early childhood educators, and educational assistants. What happens if this bill passes, you ask? I'm so glad we have the answer right here on Unbossed. The consequences of Bill 28 fines workers $4,000. That's in Canadian money, and US money, it would be $2,900 a day they strike. A day, not a one time, but a day. And to charge the union about $500,000 in Canadian money, and that would be about 360,000 US dollars for striking. You heard me right. So they're gonna penalize the individual educator or custodian or other workers in education, and then they want to penalize the union too. Ray?
Yeah, it's really disgusting, this attack, particularly on teachers. And it really is the Canadian government's peeking over the border and taking notes off of what our Republicans have been doing. But this attack on teachers is horrendous. And a lot of people can be sympathetic to it because they think, why are teachers striking? They should be in the schools educating my children or the kids in my community. But you'll see with the West Virginia teacher strike in the United States, I believe it was in 2018, the teachers were still providing the meals to the students because a lot of students in America, a lot of kids in America, the only healthy meal they get in the day is at school. So these teachers, they're not doing strikes because they don't love your children. They are teachers because they love your children. They love what they do. They want to do it. They want to continue to do it. And to be able to continue to do it, they have to be properly compensated for it. They have to have strong protections. And this is just a way to attack public education. This is a way to demonize teachers. And it's a way to undermine workers. Strikes are one of the few things workers have against their employers, and they want to take that away. They want to scare workers into not going on strike out of fear that they're going to be getting these fines that, teachers don't make a lot of money. They probably can't afford to pay. If you're a school custodian, you probably can't afford to pay it. So it really is just a systemic attack on workers and on teachers. And I hope it doesn't pass. But if it does, I hope there's a lot of strong outcry against it.
And really the fabric of their communities, because when you hurt teachers and custodians and other people who work in the realm of education, we really are hurting ourselves. So the Canadian Union of Public Employees, they represent about 55,000 education workers. The union called for an 11.3% raise for its workers, often the lowest paid in schools, arguing that stagnant wage growth and high inflation have hit the lowest earners hardest. The government has countered with a 2.5% annual raise for the lowest income workers and a 1.5 raise for others. So how do you go from an 11.3% request, and then I asked you for 11.3 and you're gonna put on the table 2.5 among some of the lowest workers in the system, trying to crush the spirit of these workers. Workers go on strike for better wages and work conditions and benefits, to make the environment better, to better themselves. They do have a right to live a good life. They are helping the most precious assets that we have, and that is our children. They deserve much higher pay in Canada, just as they deserve much higher pay here in the United States of America, and they should not be vilified. This is what this is coming down to, America and Canada. This is what this is coming down to. This is not the way that it has to be. So again, elections have consequences. We need to elect people who actually care about the people that they are going to serve. Let's bold and underline that and put a few exclamation points. It's supposed to be about service and not making people grovel for their pay. They're working. They should not be groveling.